Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am back with another video and oh my gosh, it's been a really long time, but I'm finally back. I am at Stanford now. I am a full-fledged advanced legal studies student at Stanford, and it's been such a roller coaster, and yeah, it's been a crazy 3 weeks, and I might do like a recap video vlog type thing. I'm not gonna promise anything. Like, I'm not even gonna put that out there like a guarantee, but I might, who knows. Keep watching, subscribe, you might see something. But I did want to come here and talk about the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship, which is the scholarship that I'm on and that I was so lucky and blessed to be awarded at the beginning of this year. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the application process and yeah, just kind of shed some light, particularly for people who might be in countries that are far away from the US, so continents of Africa, the Asias, etc. And because I know that we face some barriers and we face some challenges to applying for scholarships. And yeah, I have my application right here in front of me, so I'm going to talk about get into the actual application pretty soon. But before I do that, I also want to talk about how I came to know about the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship. And I had no idea about the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship. I found out about it. I found out about Stanford as an option completely from my mentor and then supervisor. Well, she's still my supervisor. And she just kind of was like, listen, there's this program, and if you don't have funding, there's this new thing called the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship. But I found out about it in 2017, and that's when I first applied to Stanford. At the time, I was so concerned with just getting into the school. I thought that I wouldn't get in and nobody's going to accept me to Stanford, so I just did not even look at scholarship applications. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I made, because I got in but had no funding, and so I actually had to forfeit my offer letter at the beginning of 2018 when I found out that I got in to the program, but I was unable to come up with the money to actually go to graduate school. And over here there's not that much funding. There's a little bit of internal funding from the law school itself, but it's not enough to really make a dent for your living expenses, tuition, etc. And so I was not able to access that funding. However, I did end up applying for a second time to both the program and then for the first time to the Knight-Hennessy, after making sure that I did my applications in time and all of that stuff. So the first thing that I would say is if you don't know about the scholarship and you've just found out about it, that's fine. I didn't have any real insider information apart from my supervisor, who was just like, this is an option, it's a new thing, why don't you try out and apply? I think you'd be great. And so that's kind of how I applied. Second thing is start early. I said this in a previous video around applications to college applications for graduate school to the US. Start early as always. The Knight-Hennessy application and the application for the school or the department or the program that you'll be applying to are two separate applications. So, and the Knight-Hennessy deadline is earlier. So if you miss that deadline, you are not going to be able to be considered for the Knight-Hennessy application. But not only that, you have to, as a result of the Knight-Hennessy application deadline being early, you also have to submit your departmental application early as well, earlier than most people, earlier than people who are not looking into the Knight-Hennessy application. So those are just things that you have to think about in terms of your timing, and timing is really important, as I emphasized in the previous video, because there are other things like recommendations, etc. that you have to get. Let's get into the application itself. As I said, as international students, as African students, Indian students, or just we have certain challenges that other students may not have, because I'm just fiddling with my laptop here. Because we just have different needs and we have an added burden when it comes to the application process. So, you have to send in your transcripts and you have to pay money for that, and sometimes you have to have those transcripts translated depending on where you come from. And those are all things that you kind of have to consider when you're applying, and it's an extremely expensive process. But one of the great things about the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship application is that you don't pay anything. There is no application fee for the scholarship, which makes absolute sense because I'm asking for funding. So when you ask me to pay money in order to apply for the funding, that would make sense. But yeah, so that's one of the great things about the application. It's generally, when I applied, I had been applying to a whole bunch of schools and a whole bunch of funding, whether they were attached to the applications themselves or they were external applications. I had been doing a lot of them, and I have to say that this is a very different application. It's very it's fun. It's actually a fun application to do. I found it quite enjoyable, and it's also something unexpected, a little bit different in terms of the kind of questions that they ask, the things that they expect. Stanford in general, both the departmental applications, like the academic department you're applying to, as well as the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship application, is very unique in the sense that I think it makes you reflect on what it is, why it is you really want to go to the school, why it is you want the scholarship, and what contribution you intend to make. And so it has a way of making you reflect on your plans and the things that you want to do. So first of all, the application goes through like your personal background, and that stuff is pretty easy, right? It's going to be like your address, your biographical information, your gender, your birth date, your birthplace, your citizenship. Scholarship is open to people from all over the world, so there is no bar in terms of what countries you come from. It's not limited to just Commonwealth countries or a certain list of countries. It's open to anyone who wants to apply. It also asks for the languages you speak and the proficiency level. It asks for the graduate program, so you have to state which graduate program you're applying to. And the great thing about the Knight-Hennessy is that it funds double programs. So if you're doing a law degree and a MBA at the same time, so a JD MBA or a PhD and something else, there's so many combined degrees and combinations of degrees that people are doing, and Knight-Hennessy funds the whole thing, which is obviously amazing. They fund up to 3 years of your graduate school education at Stanford, and that is incredible because graduate school is extremely expensive. So if you're going to be in a program that's like 7 years long, such as a JD medicine or JD MBA or something like that, then that is pretty cool, I think. So I definitely think you guys should, if you're doing a program like that, take advantage of the fact that you is going to fund 2 degrees at the same time. Yeah, they ask for your academic history. Again, this is very straightforward. I used my transcript and basically just kind of filled in the different fields. They ask for your academic record. They actually don't require you to have an official transcript, which is great. I happen to have an official transcript because I've been doing so many applications, but they require you to provide them with a transcript. So, and you don't have to send it through, which is great again, because you just, I think if I remember correctly, you attach it to the application and you don't actually have to send it through a verification service, which I had to do in order to get into the actual program, and that was quite an expensive and quite a lengthy process. They ask for your work experience, and listen, if you are one person who hasn't had much work experience, don't feel bad. I didn't have a lot of work experience. However, I did have a lot of experience within my university. It wasn't like professional experience, but I had done a lot of small jobs and things like that within my university and the surrounding neighborhood and area in which I lived when I was at university, and that really helped me. I listed as much as I could, anything that I thought reflected qualities that positive qualities that I thought matched what Knight-Hennessy was looking for. I listed that. So they require, the organization that you worked at and what your responsibilities were, and I filled out all that information. Activities and interests, I think be as honest as possible, and that's one of the advice that I would give for this application as well as your academic or departmental application. Be honest. I think they can tell, that they can sense when someone is being disingenuous and someone is being inauthentic. And so write down your activities and interests. You'd be surprised now, having been in the program for about a month, meeting the other scholars, seeing how varied their experiences, their interests, their skills are. It's really a diverse pool of people, and it's just a great mix. It's what makes Knight-Hennessy so amazing. And I think if you have something that you think is really strange or something that no one's ever heard of, it's probably a good thing to include in your application. Obviously it has to be a positive thing, but if you are interested in, I don't know, collect coins or something that you think is super nerdy, and like, who wants to know about that? But Knight-Hennessy wants to know about that kind of thing. So list your activities and interests. My activities and interests, particularly in university, were really geared toward student activism, student leadership, and I included that. But yours could really range. It could be anything. I listed my awards and honors from the university, which they also asked for, and then my CV or resume, which they also ask for. And then you are required to provide a recommendation letter. I think the maximum is 2. I talked about recommendation letters in my previous video. I'll link it somewhere here. Be very selective, especially because you're limited to 2. For my departmental application, I was limited to, I think, 4 or 5. I think it was 4. And that obviously gives you a range of people who you can ask to recommend you. But for something like the Knight-Hennessy, I think, and I mean, I don't know, I'm not speaking from like having heard what they want to see, but just what my impressions are. And I think you want something that gives a more holistic view of who you are, apart from your academic achievements. And so this is someone who has to know you well, has kind of seen your growth over a period of time. How long that period is up to you, but it really just depends. And yeah, so 2 people. Be very selective. Ask early again, so that they have time to really think through the application, and let them know what you're applying for. So let them know that this is the Knight-Hennessy scholarship, and it's a leadership scholarship. It has a leadership component to it, and it would help to highlight those areas. Obviously you can't tell your recommender what they should say, but just explain to them what it is exactly you're applying for. Because you might be requiring to write a Knight-Hennessy scholarship application, you might still be requiring that same recommender to write your departmental application recommendation, and those might have different tones and different objectives, and so you should just try to make that clear to your recommender. They ask about your family background. Again, personal information, I would just be extremely honest. And then for the essay, I think the objective of the essay, and I'm not sure if the questions are the same across the board. The essay questions for the 2018 and the 2019 applications were very similar, and they effectively had to show us what is it about what influences our life, and how do we think Knight-Hennessy is going to help us fulfill our dreams and fulfill what it is we're hoping to achieve. And again, be authentic. tell an authentic story, your story. It could be something that you think, oh my gosh, I don't have this amazingly elaborate story. I don't have all of these worldly experiences, but speak from your perspective, speak from your life's experiences, and highlight the things that influence you as an individual, inform you as an individual, make you a leader, and have had an impact on your life. And then try to link that with what you intend to do and study here at Stanford, and how all of that is going to, or what that's all going to mean for a bigger picture for you, and hopefully for the rest of your community, or for, whoever you're helping or want to help, or for the world. And I think that sounds like a lot of words, but the point is, be authentic, be honest, and answer the questions, and I think you would be fine. Make sure that you read over the essays a couple of times, because obviously you don't want typos. Make sure that if there's someone that you trust, maybe give it to them to read, to give you some feedback. And yeah, just don't worry about the questions. I think the questions are very reflective. They make you ask yourself, why do I want this? Who am I? What is my story? And the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship is really about stories and journeys and growth, and it's about people who think, it's about people who work hard, and people who contribute. And I think that if you can capture that in your letter, there's so many varied ways of writing this thing, so I wouldn't say this is what you should include, or this is, I don't think that would be good advice. I think the best advice would be write from your heart, but respond to the questions. And then the short answers, which I thought were really, really fun. It's a really fresh thing that I've never seen or never heard of in an application of this sort, where they ask about 8 improbable facts. And what I did was I asked friends to tell me things about me that they thought were unusual or interesting. And I kind of selected from those what I thought was unusual or interesting. But I thought this was a really, really cool part of the application. It makes it very fun and very light, and it helps you kind of just relax. It also has an effect of making you feel like, hey, I'm quite a special person. Like, I'm kind of cool, because you're doing all of this stuff, and you're asking friends and you're talking to other people, and again, it has this reflective effect on yourself, and that's definitely one of the things I loved. Some of the other short question we had was just like listing our goals for the future, and again, I was very honest. Some of the things were bigger, broader goals. Some of the things were very small and very immediate, and so I was just honest about that. And then there's a personal conduct part, which is pretty easy, and the acknowledgement part, which is also pretty straightforward. And then I think another part of the application is publishing a video, a short 2-minute clip. I'm not sure if this will be in the incoming application, but if it is, publishing a short 2-minute video teaching the scholars something else. Again, I thought this was really cool, but obviously you're constrained because you can't edit it. But I thought it was really cool. And when we went to Immersion Weekend, where we were invited for the interviews, for that selection process, hearing what the other scholars decided to make a video on was super interesting, because everyone had very different perspectives and very different interpretations of that task. And it was just interesting and fun to see. Again, it's a really fresh way of them, I think, putting faces to names and really hearing you speak passionately about whatever it is that interests you and whatever it is you think you can teach other people. And it could be, again, something very big and broad and, high level, or else it could be something very simple, how to make something, how to cook something, how to, you know what I mean, like just very simple. So don't feel constrained. There is no right or wrong answer. I think they're really just trying to get to know you. And yeah, that is it. Those are my tips, kind of going through quickly the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship. Do it. If you're thinking about doing it, do it. It's the 27th, and I think the deadline is the 10th of October, so you have to get on it if you haven't already. But for those of you who are in the throes of that process, I know that it is very difficult, especially if you're applying to a number of schools. It's very difficult, it's very stressful, and you're not really sure if you are writing the right thing, if you're saying the right thing, if you're being honest, if you're telling your story. I really think that you're saying the right thing. The worst that can happen is that you don't get it, and the best that can happen is that you do get it, and those are 50-50 odds, and I think it's worth taking that risk. I never in a million years, never, I mean, I completed the application very skeptically, like, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna do this thing, like, you know, I had already had that process where I applied and then I couldn't find the money, and it was just a mess, and so I was very, very discouraged, and I didn't think that I would get it, but I tried and I got it. And so much like my previous video on applying to Ivy Leagues as a student from you know, kind of an unknown country, what you think is an unknown country in the middle of nowhere, you know, with very humble interests and dreams and goals, and you think, oh, who's gonna care, who's gonna give me freaking tuition and a stipend just to, you know, study what I want to study, one of the best institutions in the world. Who's gonna do that? And there are people who are willing to do that, and they're there, and they're here at the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship, and they're here at Stanford. And yeah, bottom line, apply, go for it. All the best. Believe in yourself. Do it, do it, do it. And I think that's it. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Remember to come back for more videos. Turn on the notification bell so you can see my videos when they come up. I'm hoping to get into some sort of upload schedule while I'm here, but I'm not even gonna lie, guys. It's been crazy, and it's likely to get crazier. So yeah, but do let me know what you guys want to see in terms of content, whether it's college related, school related, academia related content, or whether it's hair related, because you guys know I like to talk about my hair, and I'm going to get back to those tutorials soon. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Mwah.